And good morning, dear ones. Rev BRZ over here.
Rev Z right here.
Rev Melissa over here.
And we're three ministers talking shit this morning. For those that watch this program regularly, you know that Rev Z and I are normally here together at this time frame. And we are so excited because we do have a special guest with us today. Rev Melissa, welcome to Ministers Talking Shit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be with y'all.
Oh, and we're so grateful you're with us. Now, I want to tell you, folks, we titled this episode today, Insurrection in America, or in the USA. Now, obviously, we knew Rev Melissa was going to be with us before the events of Wednesday. So we anticipated a lively conversation and a lively discussion and a lot of fun. And I'll tell you, we've been hanging out for about a half an hour now, and if you could have been a fly on the wall of that conversation. So we're just going to keep going and keep rolling with it because we've identified a number of different themes that we believe are most important to take away from the events of Wednesday. Number one, I titled the episode Insurrection in the USA. Rev Melissa, I think it was you that said, come on, let's call it like it is. It was a coup.
Yes, let's call a thing a thing. It was a coup, an attempted coup that failed.
And failed miserably. So, but we want to hear from you folks, right? What are your questions about what's going on right here in this experience? Where's it a little tricky for you to understand? We're going to try and unpack a lot of what we experienced, a lot of what we heard. And really, as the white guy in the room, I'm going to have to shut my mouth a lot again today because we're pretty clear. This is one of those experiences of white privilege, not wanting to give up its privilege. Z, you want to jump? You want to kick us off here,
you
Z?
know, I think that's it, right? It's like you're imagining yourself after a good night's sleep and the alarm goes off and it's time to get up and you're like, I just don't want to give up, right? And so that's what's happening now. The landscape of our country is changing. Ideas are changing. The level of consciousness is changing that are not going to allow the things that have happened in the past to continue. And so these folk were in the bed and they didn't want to go to sleep. So they said, they didn't want to get up. They wanted to stay asleep, if you will, using that as the metaphor. So they said, I'm just going to rush the Capitol because I'm not ready to give up this lifestyle, this being in control, being seen as superior, being seen as the thought knowledge capital of the world. And right now we are the laughingstock of the world because of this kind of behavior and not being able to sit down as intelligent adults and agree or disagree, but don't create conspiracy when you lose.
Absolutely. And Rev BRZ, you said you're not gonna talk as much, but that's what we need. We need the white folks who know the truth to talk, right? We need everybody who knows the truth to talk. And so, this is not new to America, right? This is not new to America. And what it has done, someone said, what is the enlightened perspective? That everything is coming into the light. If you wanted to deny it, there's no denying it. There it is again. There it is again. So what are we going to do this time? Collectively in the oneness that we are. I think that's the enlightened opportunity that we have right now.
Well, and I agree. As those who followers of this program, if you will, my mantra for this program and almost everything is educate, conversate, and activate. So that definitely has to be conversation, but that needs to be from a point of education. We don't need you spewing stuff that's QAnon, if you will, conspiracy theory. It needs to be based on serious research and knowledge that you can have a conversation and we can make some decisions based on real information, not nonsense. That's the challenge.
Right. And I think we have a lot of real information, right, Rev Z? We could just look at the history of this country, right? So we don't have to do research. This doesn't need to be studied any further. We're at the time now. What are we going to do? We're in the activation time. We are
Right.
in the activation time because clearly they are, right?
Well, but
Attempted
they're the ones
coup
who
has
need to
been
be educated,
activated.
though. Right? But they're
What?
the ones who need to be educated because they're operating on conspiracy theories, which is not true information. And what we need them to understand is that there is legitimate information that says ABC, whatever that subject or topic is. Now, how do we begin to integrate it into our lives, willingly or unwillingly, because it's going to affect all life. This is one universe. It is one planet. There is nothing that happens in isolation anywhere. So when someone does something, there's a response somewhere else. And if we don't like the response, we don't like the outcome, then we got to change the response, or vice versa, however you're starting.
So I want to make the response to Wednesday be a call to I'm going to use a term a buddy of mine used yesterday, to the light-hued folks in America, that it's time for us to wake up and heal this belief that there even is such a thing as whiteness to begin with, and that the lighter the skin, the more superior, the better we are. All that's all the more we've got to start healing this belief in white privilege, this example of white privilege, because another minister said it yesterday, right? We're hearing this call that this is not who we are. But the truth is, folks, this is who we are. We are a violent culture. We believe that might and white makes right. And that if you're white, you can do things with impunity. If that crowd was black and brown yesterday, if those signs said BLM instead of Trump, there would have been a much heavier police presence. There would have been a much more militarized presence. You know, what I saw yesterday were a bunch of beat cops with handguns. In the summer at the Washington, at the protests in the summer, I saw full-on tactical military with automatic weapons and 20 rows deep. Wednesday, we saw a couple of beat cops get overrun by a white crowd. That's got to change, folks. That's what we're here to change.
Right. And to your point,
I was going to say, not even mention the armored tank vehicle that they had there as well.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that tell us? There's a system here that is supporting this idea of supremeness. And we know the only thing that's supreme is God, right? So let's get ourselves in check here. Let's get ourselves in check. So I agree, like the conversation is way overdue, and the conversation is happening. You know, so many people are waking up, are seeing what is right before their very eyes. It's like there's no denying it anymore. You know, what else is it going to take? And I don't want that question to be answered. Believe me, I do not want that question to be answered.
Right.
We're at a very critical point right now in America. And what we do moving forward is really going to illustrate what we hold to be true. Right? Are we the people? Are we?
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited that we have the opportunity to shine our light on this. You know, it was disturbing. It was all of that. I was not surprised by any of it because it just highlights again the work that needs to be done. The work that needs to be done, and gave a clear direction in the way that we need to move.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know, you brought this metaphor to my mind, where, you know, these things have been here forever, as we know, but they have been swept under the rug. But now we're trying to remodel the house, and we done pick that rug up, and we're like, oh my God, what is under this rug? And now stuff has to be cleaned up. That stuff has to be looked at and moved out so we can replace it with whatever needs to be replaced, that's going to give us the comfort that we're looking for as a divine human beings trying to live a oneness life that allows, as CSL says, a world that works for everyone. Because again, there are no isolated events. And so this can either escalate, de-escalate, or find its happy medium and rock in that space. And that's what I'm praying for. But we got some miles to go before we get there.
Yeah, we got to do something different. There needs to be a new, if you will, playbook. We have to do something different. Things like this happen. We do things and then it goes underneath the surface again. And then we get this crazy man in the White House and there it is all again. So we have to look to see what's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing again and expecting different results.
Exactly. And that is what America has been doing for at least 400 years. So we got to do something different.
And
well,
I want a real quick add here, right? Folks, if you're waking up today, or if someone in your family is waking up today, if someone's whispering in your ear, "Hey, I'm sorry, I voted for that crazy sucker," right? If your friends are starting to wake up today, we also have to have that call for compassion for those folks because they were duped. And I want to share, like, I didn't vote for Trump or any of that stuff, but through the Obama years, I was a guy believing, hey, we had this racism thing kind of, we were beyond the hump, right? I had also white perspective, living in a predominantly white culture. Now, I've always done everything I can to be as diverse in my friendships and my connections and my relationships as I can. And in all of that, I was led to believe that, hey, we were doing okay. Right. I didn't look under the rug. I didn't take the time to lift the rug and say, what kind of stuff has been pushed under here? Why is this thing so lumpy? And now none of us have that excuse anymore. None of it. We all have to be willing to do it both, to do the prayer work, to do the consciousness work, and to lift the rug and turn on the damn vacuum cleaner and get our hands dirty and get to work.
Well, the Obama years was the marinating period. Look at how much resistance there was. Right. So that was the marinating period. I remember that whole idea, where we're beyond, race and racism. We have a Black president, it's we've healed, but no, there was some marinating going on. And then once it hit the boiling point, what did we get? What did we get next?
A shitty stew is what we got.
Yes.
The chef didn't know what it was doing, that's for sure. Too many cooks on that pot. That's what happened.
And the interesting thing about that, and as I was saying to friend, this is going to be a sociology and anthropology students' dream world, because when you look at the last 12 years, the 8 years from Obama and the 4 years for this current president, when you look at how when Obama came in with such resistance, everything he did, they tried to stop it. And if it got through, they tried to kill it for 8 years, right? And because of the rhetoric that they had to use to get the public to buy that, it kept, as you said, raising the temperature on the pot. Mm-hmm. And then when the current president came in and said, well, we finna tear down everything. We're going to start with the Obamacare and do the judges and everything. Then the pot was off, the water was spilling everywhere. And now this is the result of that. And so in my mind, we have to begin to say, how do we stop these things? At the beginning, like you said, when Obama was in, we kind of went into a euphoria kind of thing. We made it kind of thing, and not the case. It's like I love this thing by Harriet Tubman. She said, "Look, we're still in a war. It ain't time to sit down." Mm-hmm. 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 She said, "Look, I got my freedom, but the war still goes on. That's why I make these trips back from Canada down south to free the slaves." And that's how we have to think, I believe, to begin to say we still have people who don't have the correct consciousness, who don't understand the divinity of every human life, who does not understand that we either live together or die together, because we got this one planet right now. We still got Mars a long way off. We need to figure this out, or it's going to get interesting.
It's going to get interesting, Rev Z. It's pretty interesting right now. It's pretty interesting. So what do you think is going to happen? You know, there's all this talk now about, you know, invoking the 25th Amendment, or, you know, impeaching him. We got how many days left?
12.
12 now.
12. So what do you think is going to happen?
I don't think it's going to happen, because I don't know if the other side has the wherewithal to make that call. I don't think Pence is going to do it. Now, they can try to do it in Congress, but then we'll see. I mean, I'm curious to see, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to let it run out. Anybody, if he gives any orders that has to be followed, people are going to say, nope, not going to follow that, I would hope. And then his time runs out and we move to the next chapter.
So in that regard, what do each of you think about the so yesterday there was the late afternoon video, which was the first time we've actually seen him live since Wednesday morning, right? Everything else had been Twitter or pre-recorded video. There was that video yesterday afternoon late where he says there will be a transfer of power, a peaceful transfer of power. He makes that statement. He all but says the word concede. Now, I also don't, but what do you guys make of that video?
Well, mine is short and quick. Out of every conference he's ever given, he has never, ever, hardly, maybe once before this stayed on script, right? This was a scripted call that he looked directly into the teleprompter so he can make sure he got the words right. There was no off beaten path, because now somebody, it seems that he trusts, has gotten to him and said, dude, you have opened up the biggest can of worms for yourself and this party that has ever been opened, and we got to try to salvage something. That's what I saw. Those words were hollow to me. He has to go peacefully now, because he's already, he may come out any kind of other way now with all this inciting a riot at the minimum. So I think it was a prompted script, and he read it.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't see it, but I heard some of the text from it, and one, it didn't seem like him at all. I thought maybe, is he medicated that he could do that now, that he could say something reading from a script and not go off into a tangent about something else? Was he upset because they blocked him on Facebook and Twitter and he was thinking about that? So I pray that it's peaceful moving forward. Do I think that he's able to control himself? I do not think he's able to control himself. And the quicker this, we have this thing with time now. It seems like every day is quicker and quicker and quicker. So these 12 days can't go by fast enough for me, because I don't think he can maintain himself and that composure for too long.
Gotcha. Well, therein is some of our work, folks, right? Let's all get praying on the fact that, let's pray this man can control himself for 12 days. Let's pray that he is having his awakening, and that his advisor are helping him to see a greater truth, that he's got to awaken to the fact that if he doesn't shut his mouth and go away soon, he's going to have no future in politics. And he's got to be wanting to hold on to that anyway. So,
and one thing I heard, and this is a deeper, a more expansive result of what happened. I heard several other countries talking about, no longer can America come to us with the heavy hand about democracy and how it should be run and all of that. After this demonstration, you don't have that position anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Very
true.
It's a humbling time. It should be a humbling time for America, because the eyes of the world are watching, so we need to do some work collectively as a country.
When Boris Johnson tells you to throw in the towel, I mean, come on. But I agree with you, right? See, because a lot of countries that are slipping away from the democratic perspective, that are moving in that dictatorial area, they were emboldened yesterday. They reject the fact that, yes, we no longer have a moral high ground when it comes to elections. And I heard statements yesterday or Wednesday from like the UN that normally you would only hear about what we call third world countries. And yeah, again, folks, this is what we've become. But the beauty of it is, and I'm sitting here digitally from a distance with two incredibly powerful people that know how to pray, people that know how to make things happen in the world. And there's hundreds and thousands of us across the country, across the world, that when we put our mind to it, we can create anything we want. So we really got to look at, what do we want? And I'll say it again, do the prayer work, but also be ready to roll up our sleeves, take off the gloves, and go get our hands dirty and get some work done on being the change we want to see in this country.
And absolutely, I agree 100%. And I would just say to that also, when we say, look at what we've become, we need to start from the place of, look at what we are, look at what we have been. This did not just happen. This has been happening. This has been the fabric of America. So let's start from that place. Let's start from, what have we created in this America, right? From the very beginning. And where are we going? How are we going to move this forward with real eyes, with the truth? With the truth of what we have been, what we are, and now what is it that we want to become? What is our becoming in all of this?
Yeah,
I think that is the opportunity here.
Most definitely.
Let's start from let's start from the beginning. Let's start there.
And we have to create a shared vision. Whatever that is, we have to create a vision that is shared. Because if we don't, we're going to have what we have right now. I don't care how humble or anything we start out. There were two visions in this country when it started. There was the vision of the people who came here, and there was the vision of the people who were already here. They didn't align. And when they didn't align, trouble started. And so then they went and got some more people who they thought they could force under slavery to buy into their vision. And under force they did, but there was always those who didn't. And that's how we've been going down the track. One country, two visions of how it should work. So I think we need to go back and understand the history to understand why and how that happened, so that never happens again. And then try to figure out, how do we, given our differences, given our idiosyncrasies that we all have, how do we create a shared vision that will allow this work to work for everyone? I mean, because I live in Colorado. The Colorado weather patterns are the same ones right now that I grew up with in North Florida. In terms of, the world is changing whether we want it to or not, from the physical level all the way up to the level of consciousness. So if we can't figure that out and figure out how we fit into that groove, they're just going to stop the record. And then you're going to be caught in the dance floor without a seat.
and Z, you're talking, what's the highest vision? Melissa, you're asking the question, what are we becoming? It sounds to me like we need a national visioning day. I'm those that know me know my go-to spiritual practice is the practice of life visioning. Well, we can do visioning for projects. We could do visioning for America, and we need a lot of people to get on board with the idea. And ultimately, I think you're pointing to the fact that is where we're headed. A shared vision, a sense of what are we here to become? What is the highest ideal for America? It isn't white supremacy. It isn't this division. It isn't civil war. We're not going there, folks. Done that one. Don't need to do it again. We can learn how to heal our divisions in perspective. We can learn how to heal these apparent separations without the use of violence, without bloodshed. It's possible. And I think that's one of the greatest callings of the day, more than anything, right? We, to use the language of others, we're here, and now is the time to heal this belief in whiteness, and get back to the fact that we're one human family, that deeply we are one. And you're my brother and you're my sister, or you're my both, if that's who you are in the world. Let's call you who you want to be called, right? I'll stray into, we'll do the transgender talk later. It's the same principle.
Yeah.
What part are you here to play in all this?
Well, you brought to mind real quick the whole concept. You will hear a lot of talk, and there's a lot of conversation about this country being built on a lot of symbols and philosophy from ancient Egypt, right? And so you have the book that is called the Book of the Dead, but in ancient Kemet, that book was called the Book of Coming Forth by Day, which accentuated the process that they call the process of becoming, because they understood through their observation of nature, heaven, and themselves that every day is the process of becoming something different, something new, because you have just taken in 24 hours of information that when you go into the underworld, the sleep world, the world of the unconscious, that gets integrated. And now you got a chance to rise like Ra did at the beginning of the day to spread a new light. And that's where we are now. We have to integrate this stuff and figure out this ain't supporting nothing but death and destruction. And life is what's prime. And so we got to figure out how to become into that and not this death and destruction that a lot of people are peddling.
That's right. And so that means that every day, that's how we have to show up. We have to show up as the light that we are. And we have to call out what is not the light, what appears as not the light. We have to call it out. We have to call it out. And Wednesday night, to your point about visioning, Wednesday night, my spiritual center, we did a visioning. It was already planned, but since all that was happening, we decided to do a visioning about what was occurring in the world at that time. And it was powerful. And what came up for each one of us is, what is it that we need to heal within ourselves, right? What is it that we need to heal within ourselves? And then we'll be so powered up, and we'll have the energy and the strength and the vision, right, to see as God sees us, right? Yeah. So that's what I am leaning on. That's what's keeping me getting up in the morning and doing this work. I am very hopeful. I'm very optimistic that we have the way with all within us to do this, to shift this, to change this, and to create a world that works for everyone. It's not just words, it's a consciousness.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Folks, we could probably go on for another hour, and we're not. Because we've all got other places to be, we've all got other shows to do, we've all got other commitments. We know you do as well. So we want to say thank you for being with us. Thank you for investing this half hour in sharing what we see as what's happening in the world and what we can do as spiritual beings, not navel gazers, not just sitting in a room doing our prayer work and waiting for the world to change around us, but doing both, changing and shifting our consciousness and being the hands and the heart and the voice of God in the world to change the conditions of our world. So we want to say thank you to Rev Melissa for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
And if you all want to get to know more about Reverend Melissa, well, I want you to know New Thought Media Network is super excited because Rev Melissa is doing a show with us Monday through Friday at 8:30 Mountain, 10:30 Eastern time. About a half an hour show, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little shorter. It's called Morning Sip with Reverend Melissa, and it is fabulous. The first 4 shows so far have been like home runs. You got a grand slam going on, girl. And she'll be back a little later this morning at 8:30 Mountain with Morning Sip. And then next week, she's starting another show with us called Living Life in Joy. And that's going to air Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain, noon Eastern. So we invite you to join us for those. Z's part of the prayer team, so you see him around the network all the time. And he and I are together on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Mountain for New Thought Today, where we take a deeper dive into the guiding principles and practices of the New Thought philosophy. So on behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your gifts, your tithes, your donations, your offerings. Your financial support ensures that we're able to continue these broadcasts, bring you this type of programming, and continue to share this vibration, this message of peace, positivity, and new thought with the planet. So again, we want to thank you for being with us. Z and then Melissa, final thank yous, goodbyes, or thoughts?
Mine. Thanks, everyone, and love, light, insight, followed by conversate, educate, and activate. Let's get it done.
All right. You know what I say? We got to live life, enjoy, connected to our yes. Let's connect to the yes.
Go forth and be love, folks. Until next week, peace and blessings. Bye now.
Peace and blessings.